Nobody's there to do bad things. They just do it because everybody else does it. Like, I want to blame the person for not stepping up, but it's also very hard for me to blame that person when they don't have awareness, because they don't have awareness because they were never given the feedback. That's critical. If you don't get the feedback, you can't get the self-discovery. Without self-discovery, you have no awareness. So if the bosses are not committed enough to provide the actual feedback, then that process can't even start. You know what I mean? Can't even start. I don't know. I think, I led a team once. I was a very toxic leader, but we were very high performing. I had a very up or out mentality. Like, I don't got time to train you. So either you come in out of the box with the skill sets we need, or I got to find a different spot for you. I literally have 10 desks, and you're sucking up oxygen in this very tiny room. I'm sorry. Right. And I fired lots of people. Right. I fired lots of people, all of them for their own benefit. Right. Because all of them needed off the team for one person, for one reason or another. It had nothing to do with doing the mission. The mission was killing it. Right. Everybody on the team, 3 medals, 3 medals, and a DUI is what you got on my team. Right. And that was just like, and that was the psychological safety piece. I overdid it on the accountability piece, because there is a breach that can happen, and I learned that the hard way. But I think there's a lot of room for a lot of people to grow and be held accountable before you reach that extreme state where I was, right? Where I was creating that toxic environment and that lack of psychological safety, because it was like, you're fired, right? It was very, very much like that. There's lots of room to be held accountable before we get to that stage, and that type of craziness. So I don't know. I hope, it is my hope, it is my mission, right, as a leadership strategist, to build more leaders who are leading and who will go, you're a fuckstick, and we need to have a conversation, because I actually don't care about you as I do about your impact on these thousands of people. Type of thing.
And that's what sucks about pushing along people who should not be a part of the military. Is
Yeah.
you the better you are theoretically, the more people you are going to influence.
Correct.
Like if you do really well, they're going to put you in command of a squadron when you're like major lieutenant colonel level, right? Because they're grooming you for the next level. You have all these people's lives, careers, development as your responsibility. And when you don't perform at that level, when you don't demonstrate that you are the kind of person who can be trusted with a large organization and see it succeed, you are going to get fewer and fewer people, which means you are going to have more direct access with them. And if you are not a good person, you are almost guaranteeing that those few people that poor leader comes in contact with are going to look for a way out of the military. Because clearly this is what the military is, right? The military is an organization that puts a lieutenant colonel in what realistically should have been like a captain's position to underperform other O3s and make life hell for E3s, E4s.
Yeah.
You think you're going to keep them? You think you're going to keep those 2 or 3? And I guess that's the trade-off with making it difficult to kick people out, is like, okay, we're going to limit the possible damage that this person can do by giving them the least possible amount of responsibility, and just okay, maybe we have to bite the bullet on 3 good workers getting out every, however often this guy transitions from position to position. Okay, wherever he goes, we're gonna count on losing 3 people. Okay, well, we've got a constant pipeline of people coming in, so it's all an attrition game, I guess.
Because I'd rather have 3 than 3,000. Because that's what would happen if they were in a bigger, if they were up higher up the food chain, right? You would have 3,000 or 1,000 or what are hundreds, depending on the level, be affected. And it does affect, right? Trickle down leadership. I mean, the mini me effect, that happens, and you can always tell an organization by the leader, by who's in charge, right? Because the people will act like that, which is unfortunate, totally unfortunate. And fortunate if you're a good leader, well, that's why my premise of kicking charisma to the door, right? Focusing on culture. So it's not person dependent. So you can have one of these guys roll in, and it's the culture that buttresses against that type of thing, versus the person. It's very hard to fight personalities, but culture is like a force, and you can really build good culture that squeezes out those type of people.
So I think that's the tier 1 organizations, the ones that can
Yes.
select, the ones that can for their people, the ones that get to choose who gets to play and who doesn't.
Well, yes, obviously, like 100%. In fact, I will tell you, my entire leadership model is based on tier 1 organizations. It's based on decomposing what works for the highest performers to break down, decompose the highest performers that we have, the elite, like what makes them so different, not as an individual, but as a team. Like, why is that? What's the team magic, in there? It's that culture piece, right? That team culture. But you can create team culture on organizations where you are forced to play pugs, right? Pickup games. It seems like all the time, right? You get on a new team, you're just a pickup gamer, right? For instance, if you're in charge, you set the game, you set the rules. When I came to this one other team, right, and it was a fairly large team, like 15 people, and there was a lot. Like I spent a couple of days just listening to the way they talk to each other. I could tell there was a lot of gossip happening on the team. He said, she said, this thing, da da da. Right. I was like, okay, well, that's going to stop. So get them in a room. Everybody's in a room. I go, hey, here's all the things, and here's the final. Here's a new rule. Right. There will be 0 gossip. If I hear you gossiping about somebody, if you're talking about somebody else, you're saying somebody else's name or you're inferring to somebody else, and it has nothing to do with their task or your mission, as in they gave it to you or you're waiting on something from them, that's an LLC. We will quickly add paperwork to your file if that's a path you're going to choose to do. I'm telling you right now, I don't tolerate it. I have 0 tolerance, so don't do it. Kicked all the airmen out. It's just NCOs. NCOs, check this out. If I witnessed it and you're nearby, you're getting an LLC too for not taking care of it. So I need you to hold them accountable, or you're going to get paperwork as well. I have 0 tolerance. I have 0 tolerance for bystander as well.
Mm-hmm.
That one day, setting the new rules for the team flipped everything around in one day. Because it was very quickly, they're like, oh, that's not what, we're not doing that anymore. That's not how we have fun. We have fun in other ways, but that's not how we have fun.
Yeah, and talking shit about each other behind their backs, like, what's wrong there?
Yeah, not doing it. But the point is that you had to set the rule, right? It was a rule change, and because people followed the rule over time, it just became culture. And then when a new guy came in, going blah blah blah, they're like, whoa, we don't do that here. So you need to knock that off. You need to leave that at the door. That's your old place, your old base, your old unit, your old team, right? We don't do that here. And they did that. I'm not even in that anymore. But that was the rule that was set, that built the culture. The culture then took a life force of its own. Huge fan of that. First, me coming in every day. What are you doing? You know how many LCs I wrote? None.
Like, yeah.
None. None. Because they're not stupid. Stop treating them as, right? And two, nobody wants to be an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's there to do bad things. They just do it because everybody else does it. And the bystander effect is so strong in our society that we'll let terrible things happen because we think somebody else is going to take care of it, or because somebody else didn't do any of it. That gives illicit permission for that terrible thing to happen.
Mhm.
That's why you got to step up at a